The fire had been burning for hours. Its glow flickered against the black waters of the Ganges as the wind carried the smell of smoke and something else, something unmistakable. A group of travelers stood at the edge of the Manikarnika Ghat in Varanasi, India's most sacred cremation ground. It was long past midnight, yet the pyre still blazed, crackling beneath the weight of wood and flush. And then, through the rising ash, they saw him, a man sitting cross-legged beside the burning body, naked except for a necklace of bones, his skin smeared with ash, his hair matted, his eyes open, but still, like they had seen too much of life to care for it anymore. He reached into the dying flames with his bare hand, lifted a piece of charred wood, and pressed it against his forehead. The fire hissed, but he didn't flinch. The travelers stumbled back in shock, and that's when he looked at them. Not with anger, not with madness, but with calm. He smiled. This was no ghost, no demon. This was an Aghori, a member of one of the most feared and misunderstood sects in India. Men who meditate among the dead to conquer everything humans fear: pain, impurity, and death itself. And this is their story. To understand the Aghoris, you must first understand where they come from. Their roots lie deep in Hinduism, in the worship of Lord Shiva, the god of destruction and transformation. Most Hindus worship Shiva through temples, prayers, and devotion, but the Aghoris believe that to truly become one with him, you must go beyond the limits of good and evil. You must destroy fear itself. And for them, enlightenment isn't found in purity, it's found in filth. It isn't found in light, but in darkness. The Aghoris live in cremation grounds surrounded by death because they believe that life and death are not opposites, but simply mirrors of one another. And to conquer death, they meditate beside burning pyres, sometimes using the ashes of the dead to cover their bodies, as a reminder that everything ends in dust. It's their rituals that have made the Aghoris infamous. They eat what others throw away, they drink from human skulls, using them as sacred bowls, they meditate on corpses, believing that by facing death so directly, they can strip away the illusion of fear. And there are stories, some true, some exaggerated, of Aghoris performing rituals with human remains, of them consuming flesh from cremation grounds, not as cannibals, but as monks who reject the boundaries between the pure and the impure. Every act that horrifies outsiders is meant to destroy ego and duality. To the Aghori, there's no difference between clean and unclean, holy and unholy, living and dead. Everything is sacred. And yet their power is feared. Villagers who live near cremation grounds whisper stories of Aghoris who curse and bless with the same hand. Some say they can heal diseases, and others say they can control spirits. They're both saints and outcasts. The question outsiders always ask is simple. Why? Why would anyone live among ashes and corpses? To the Aghori, the answer is equally simple, because that's where truth lives. They believe the world hides behind illusions of cleanliness, morality, beauty, and comfort. These illusions make us weak, afraid of what we don't understand. By living among what society rejects, corpses, decay, taboo, the Aghoris face the raw truth of existence. Death is the great equalizer because the king and the beggar both burn on the same pyre. The body is temporary and only the consciousness remains. And in Aghori philosophy, fear is ignorance, and to be fearless is to be free. And so their practices, as terrifying as they appear, are not meant to shock, but they're meant to awaken. And to them, the only real impurity is judgment. Every Aghori's journey begins with one act, sitting beside the fire. At the Manikarnika Ghat, the cremation never stops. The fire has burned continuously for centuries, and when a new Aghori is initiated, he must meditate beside the pyres for days, watching bodies burn, breathing in the scent of mortality, and some say they eat a small portion of the ashes to remind themselves that death lives in all things. As the body burns, they chant mantras to Shiva, calling him by his most fearsome form, Bhairava, the lord of the cremation ground. To the uninitiated, it looks like madness, but to the Aghori, this is freedom. the final surrender of all fear, all attachment, all illusion. In that fire, they say, lies God. Historically, mainstream Hinduism normally keeps its distance from the Aghoris. They are seen as madmen or heretics and often feared. But among the common people, reverence still hides behind fear. Pilgrims sometimes visit Aghoris to receive blessings or medicine. Many believe that the Aghori's touch can cure diseases or that his curse can destroy enemies. Some Aghoris use herbs, ashes, and meditation to heal, claiming that by absorbing the suffering of others, they help restore balance. The earliest records of Aghori practices trace back to the 14th century, though their beliefs are older still, descending from the Kapilakas, an ancient skull-bearing ascetics who worship Shiva in his fiercest form. These early practitioners lived outside society, performing rituals in graveyards and wilderness, challenging every religious and moral law. When the Aghori order emerged in Varanasi centuries later, it inherited this legacy, part devotion, part rebellion. And they became the monks of the margins, rejecting temples and rules, seeking God in decay. And for them, death is not a curse but a doorway, the final threshold before liberation. Today, there are only a few hundred Aghoris left, mostly living near the cremation ghats of Varanasi or remote caves in the Himalayas. And some still live by the old ways, naked, ash-covered, meditating among fires. Others have softened their practices, blending into the city's chaos, teaching philosophy to those who seek them out. And modern documentaries and journalists have tried to capture their lives, but the truth remains elusive. For the Aghoris, what they do, it's not performance, it's worship. And worship, they say, is not meant to be understood. And what's even more interesting is we're seeing the adoption of Aghori ideals today by some middle-class Indians in a social sense. Wanting to break out of the caste system, they're beginning to spend more time caring for the sick, looking out for the weak, and interacting with those lower on the totem pole previously considered untouchable. And this all ties into the core idea that God lives within every individual, and he can be found in both good and bad, clean and filth, light and dark. Even today, the Aghori stand as living reminders of something humanity tries to forget, that life and death are inseparable. They are the shadows of our civilization's fear. And for them, sitting beside the fire, it's not horror, it's meditation. And handling ashes is not filth, it is truth. They believe that when you stop fearing the dead, you stop fearing life. That's why they stay at the edge of the burning ground, where the sacred meets the profane, and fear burns into freedom. And at its core, maybe they're just simply mirrors, forcing us to look at what we refuse to see. Because in the smoke of the cremation grounds, where fear dies and silence speaks, the Aghoris whisper the one truth no one wants to hear, that death isn't the end, it is the beginning.